Okay, so now we're gonna work on putting handles on our cups. So these are the cups that I trimmed earlier. So now I want to place handles on them so that they're a little more easy to use. Your handle should reflect the cup itself. It should be part of the cup and it should be part of the design. So I'm going to just show you a couple examples before we start putting these on. So this is kind of a small, simple, basic cup with more of a lug type handle. It's just a single finger handle, which some people like, some people don't. That's kind of a matter of personal preference. But this started out as a larger piece that was then cut so that it had sharper, cleaner edges. This one, because this is more of a barrel style cup, the coil of that was used in order to create the handle remained intact, so it was more of a barrel style handle. Again, you can fit multiple fingers in this. Again, personal preference. Sometimes the cup itself doesn't have a whole lot to it. Like this one is just kind of a basic cup, so the handle itself acts as the more artistic part of the cup as it comes from inside the cup to the outside. Then on a handle like this, the cup has a little bit more shape to it, so you want to create some shape to the handle, and then this is just kind of a finger hold for people on the cup. The other thing is where the cup is attached, there's a small stamp used so that it just creates another effect, another layer of decoration for the surface. Some people want to do some different things, so this is just a single loop again that is run down the side of the cup. The cup has a little bit more shape. This kind of plays with that shape, taking this indented part and bringing it out more. And then this cup has two lines in the bottom, so then there were two indented lines in the handle to kind of tie that into the overall shape of the cup itself. And then on this cup, the bottom of the handle was turned back over itself just to create a little bit of shape to it. Okay, it's kind of a generic shape of a handle, and that works. It's very functional. You know, it allows for different people to hold it in different ways, but this just adds a little something extra to it. So for our handles for our cups, what I've done is I've extruded some coils using the extruder so that I know that they're consistent in their size. And now I want to take them, cut them down, and change their shape a little bit so that it fits with the cup itself. So the first one I'm going to do is this squared off cup. So I want a handle that comes off the side. I don't want a whole lot fancy to it, but I don't want to keep it as a coil. I want to flatten my coil out. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set this other coil to the side for now, for my other cups. And I really want to take this and only use what I'm going to use. So I'm going to take this coil and cut it in half using my knife from my toolbox. Set my other piece to the side so I can use it for another piece. And then using the roller, I'm just going to flatten this out a little bit. And when I do that, I want to make sure that I roll both sides so that both sides kind of have that flattened look to them. I want to apply even pressure, because if I flatten one part more than the other, it won't be as wide, because I'm really pushing the clay out as I push it down. I'm just going to smooth it out a little bit with just my fingers, because it picks up the texture of the board. Always make sure you're rolling these out on canvas. If you roll them out onto the table itself, your handle will stick to the table, and then when you try to peel it up, it'll rip and tear. So as you can see from this, it's a little bit thinner up here, a little bit thinner down here, where I didn't roll it as hard as I did in this middle part. So I next want to take this blank handle and I want to shape it to my cup. So I want to attach it, just hold it in place where it's going to attach to the cup, and then I'm going to turn it back on itself and bring it down to where it touches the cup on the bottom. And then I can press this a little bit so I can adjust the overall shape of my handle. And once I have that, I want to make sure it's lined up so that it's vertically straight. I don't want a handle that's twisted, unless you would mean to do it intentionally, which you can do. Just make sure it looks like you did it intentionally and that it wasn't just that you messed up where you put your handle. Okay, so I want to make sure it's lined up this way. I'm going to make sure it's lined up this way and that it has the the lift that I want it to. And then before I take this off, I'm going to take my knife or my needle tool, and I'm just going to mark lightly on the cup where my handle touches the cup, so that when I take my handle off and set it to the side, I know exactly where I need to score the surface of the clay in order to score and slip my handle on. So when I score, I'm going to take my serrated rib from my box, and I'm just going to scratch the surface in multiple directions where my handle is going to attach. And this will allow the slip to grip the cup a little bit so that it creates a tighter bond between the cup and the handle. Then I'm going to score my handle where it's attached to where it's going to attach to my cup in both spots. And then I'm ready to slip and my handle on. So I'm going to take my container of slip, and I'm just going to put a small amount of slip on my cup where my handle is going to attach. I want to make sure I cover the scratch marks the score marks that I made, and if there's a little excess, that's okay. We can always wipe it off afterwards. So the first part I'm going to attach is the top part. I want to make sure I have one hand on the inside so I don't dent my cup, and one hand on the outside, and I'm just going to press this in. And I'm going to clear the excess slip. And this will twist a little bit. And then the bottom part, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to press this down onto my cup. But I'm not going to press it down as far as I did the top one, and I'll show you why in a minute. I want to make sure that my excess slip is cleared off. And then at the top, what I can do is I can take this and I can blend it into the body of the cup so that I create it so it looks like it's all one piece of clay. I check the shape of my handle, make sure it's how I want it. And then on the bottom, where I press it against the clay, I'm going to take a stamp, and I'm just going to stamp that. And it's a square design to match with the squared off style of my cup. So I have this small square stamp which pushes the clay in, and I've got this squared off top. Now what I can do is I can leave this as it is. We can go. I'm going to put a thumb hold at the top, so I'm just going to take a small amount of extra clay that I have laying around, and I'm going to roll it into a ball. I'm going to score the top of my handle. I'm going to score the top of my ball of clay. I'm just going to take a very small amount of slip. I'm going to place that ball on the handle like this. I'm just going to press it down. And then holding it, I'm going to take my thumb, I'm going to press the clay so I have this thumbprint at the top that my thumb will fit in comfortably when I'm holding my cup. So that's one way of doing a handle, and then I can clean that up and it's set to dry. Make sure I've signed the bottom, and then I can set that off to dry to be fired. A different way of doing handles is kind of depends on how you manipulate your coils. So for this one, I'm going to square off my coil. Again, I'm going to use my rolling pin. I'm going to lightly do one side, and then I'm going to roll it onto, I'm going to roll it 90 degrees, and I'm going to lightly roll it so that I start to square off my coil. Then I'm just going to do the rest of it by hand, turning it a little bit every time and just kind of patting it against the board so that it squares off a little bit more. I'm just going to run my fingers on it If I wanted a perfect square, I could have extruded a square on my handle, but sometimes it's easier to extrude a full coil and then kind of play with it as you go. So to add a little something to this one, what I'm going to do then is I'm going to take my square and I'm going to twist it a little bit. And now I've kind of got this twisted handle look, and now I'm going to fit this twist to my cup. And again, a little bit more traditional of a shape for a handle. On the bottom, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this at an angle so that it sits a little bit neater at the bottom. So like before, I'm going to make sure it's lined up and it's straight. I'm going to mark where it touches my cup so that I know where to score. Set this to the side. Find my score marks, my anchor marks, score my cup again, score my handle. Take a little small amount of slip. Make sure my score marks are completely covered. Probably not too much on the bottom. Make sure my score marks are completely covered and there's excess that will go into my handle. And then I can place the top. Again, supporting on the inside what I'm doing on the outside so I don't deform my cup shape. Then I'm going to blend part of this into my cup. I want this to stand out a little bit more though, so I'm not going to blend it all the way around. Just kind of at the bottom. So I still want it to stand out as its own piece. That's my other handle. And I'm not going to add anything to the top. I think the handle itself will be good with that squared off and twisted look on this squared off cup. Make sure it fits well. Okay. And then I'm done with that. So be creative with your handles, do some different stuff. Feel free to play. Feel free to extrude some different styles. We've got several different dies that are made for handles, so do some different shapes. So you've got some different types of handles that complement the shape of your cup, or in a case like this, if you've got kind of a straight cylinder, that add a little something extra to it so that it's a little bit more fun to look at than just a store-bought cup.